Preface and Expedition Members of Scott's Last Expedition, Volume 1. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Michael Gray. Scott's Last Expedition, Volume 1. The Journals of Robert Falcon Scott, arranged by Leonard Huxley. Preface. 14 years ago, Robert Falcon Scott was a rising naval officer, able, accomplished, popular, highly thought of by his superiors, and devoted to his noble profession. It was a serious responsibility to introduce him to take up the work of an explorer, yet no man living could be found who was so well fitted to command a great Antarctic expedition. The undertaking was new and unprecedented. The object was to explore the unknown Antarctic continent by land. Captain Scott entered upon the enterprise with enthusiasm tempered by prudence and sound sense, and all had to be learnt by a thorough study of the history of Arctic traveling, combined with the experience of different conditions in the Antarctic regions. Scott was the initiator and founder of Antarctic sledge traveling. His discoveries were of great importance: the survey and soundings along the barrier cliffs, the discovery of King Edward Land, the discovery of Ross Island and the other volcanic islets, the examination of the barrier surface, the discovery of Victoria Mountains, a range of great height and many hundreds of miles in length, which had only before been seen from a distance out at sea, and above all, the discovery of the great ice cap on which the South Pole is situated, by one of the most remarkable polar journeys on record. His small but excellent scientific staff worked hard and with trained intelligence, their results being recorded in 12 large quarto volumes. The great discoverer had no intention of losing touch with his beloved profession, though resolved to complete his Antarctic work. The exigency of the naval service called him to the command of battleships and to confidential work of the Admiralty, so that 5 years elapsed before he could resume his Antarctic labors. The object of Captain Scott's second expedition was mainly scientific, to complete and extend his former work in all branches of science. It was his ambition that in his ship there should be the most complete equipped expedition for scientific purposes connected with the polar regions, both as regard to men and material, that have ever left these shores. In this he succeeded. He had on board a fuller complement of geologists, one of them especially trained for the study of physiography, biologists, physicists, and surveyors than ever before composed the staff of the polar expedition. Thus, Captain Scott's objects were strictly scientific, including the completion and extension of his former discoveries. The results will be explained in the second volume of his work. They will be found to be extensive and important. Never before in the polar regions have meteorological, magnetic, and tidal observations been taken in one locality during 5 years. It was also part of Captain Scott's plan to reach the South Pole by a long and most arduous journey. But here again his intention was, if possible, to achieve scientific result on the way, especially hoping to discover fossils which would throw light on the former history of the great range of mountains which he had made known to science. The principal aim of this great man, for he rightly has his niche among the polar demi-majors, was the advancement of knowledge. From all aspects Scott was among the most remarkable men of our time, and the vast number of readers of his journal will be deeply impressed with the beauty of his character. The chief traits which shone forth through his life were conspicuous in the hour of his death. There are few events in history to be compared for grandeur and pathos with the last closing scene in the silent wilderness of snow. The great leader, with the bodies of his dearest friends beside him, wrote and wrote until the pencil dropped from his dying grasp. There was no thought of himself, only the earnest desire to give comfort and consolation to others in their sorrow. His very last lines were written, lest he who...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?